I'll let you know.
It's hard to start without a quorum.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us at today's Board of Supervisors meeting. If everyone would please stand with me for the flag salute, followed by a moment of silence. We will be led today by District 1 Supervisor Alan Ashita.
Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right. At this time, we'll take up item number 1 on our agenda, and that is public comments. I have a couple of public comment slips here in front of me today. We'll go ahead and get started with Houston Wells. Please state your address for the record as well. Thank you.
My name is Houston Wells, and my address is at 30468 Road 68, where my business resides. I have a concern with the the protocol that we have in the county as far as when new businesses or things are happening. We received a letter saying that we would be notified through a public hearing about a construction project where they are allowing staging areas. And anyway, in the process, I obtained the public records, and I looked at the zoning ordinances, which was waived for that project for only staging. And according to the county regulations, that's all it was supposed to be used for. But now they are manufacturing asphalt and increasing the traffic load on the roadways in the county. And I was out there yesterday, and there was a truck every 10 minutes that was either taking product into the plant or leaving to get another load. And I have called my supervisor, and I wanted a clearer definition on if this was going to be allowed for all the agricultural areas. I did get a letter back from the county, Jake Raper's office, saying that they would have a further discussion about that. But in researching what your regulations say, that it was only used for staging area and not a processing or manufacturing of asphalt. Has anybody done a traffic index study on that? The materials that are stockpiled on that property is supposedly non-hazardous. However, the county road department does not use that material on their shoulder because they state that that's hazardous material. So I just need a clear direction on which way we're going to go with this. Somebody said a long time ago, laws without consequences are no longer any laws, and I believe it's same applied to the regulations that we're supposed to enforce. And you guys adopted this regulation only for contractor storage, and now it's used for something else. The applicant said that he was only going to store and stage, and now he's doing something else. So I would like a immediate response and an answer to what's going to happen with this project, because this sets a precedence for the rest of the contractors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. We'll make sure that you are contacted about this issue. Next up, I have a public comment slip from Mitch Brown. If you please come forward and state your name and address for the record, that'd be great.
Good morning. My name is Mitch Brown. I reside at 27277 Avenue 196 in Strathmore, California. I am here to address the matter of the special use permit issued to Papich Construction, doing business as Sierra Pacific Materials, to allow a temporary public works staging area. The application was number PSP 13-005AA. The planning director issued the permit categorically exempt from the requirements of California Environmental Act, CEQA. A portable hot mix plant is now exempt from, or a portable hot mix asphalt plant is not exempt from CEQA. This project should not have been allowed to have a special use permit without consulting Caltrans to do additional traffic studies added to the normal daily flow. Air Quality Control Board do the emissions from the portable asphalt plant and the traffic and the truck traffic. Water Quality Board due to the runoff from the stockpiles, the material stockpiles. In addition, the property for this permit is zoned AE 20 and not a manufacturing plant, or not manufacturing for an asphalt. The truck traffic at minimum will be added an additional 480 truck trips per day entering and exiting the roadway at Road 68. This equates to a truck entering and exiting the site every 75 seconds. This is one of the reasons the project is not categorically exempt from CEQA. The other thing that they missed when they were looking at this, and is costing the county as a taxpayer, this is a big one for me, the project will produce approximately 140,000 tons of asphalt. At the cost of $55, this equates to $7,700,000. The sales tax at 8% would bring $616,000 worth of tax revenue. Due to the fact that the plant has been allowed to manufacture asphalt on the site, has taken sales tax revenue away from Tulare County. This will go to zero. The special use permit for Papich to produce asphalt mix at the site was issued without careful research and consideration by the Planning Department of Tulare County RMA. I asked the Board of Supervisors to revoke this permit to cease operations of the portable hot plant immediately. If you have any questions, you have my number. I've given you mine. Any further, you can contact me at 781-6389 or 333-2994, which is my cell phone, and by email at mbgei@ocsnet.net. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Appreciate it, and have someone get in contact with you following up on this.
Thank you very much. Have a great
Thank
day,
you.
everybody.
Have a great day, too. Next up, I have a request from the one and only Chief of Police of the City of Visalia, Ms. Colleen Mestis.
Thank you. I apologize. I didn't know you had to fill out a slip, but good morning. And I'm here to publicly thank Sheriff Whitman and his entire staff. And I know that the sheriff and the undersheriff are unavailable this morning, but the captains are here. I think all of you are very aware that in the city of Visalia, we have seen multiple officer-involved shootings. And in order to be very transparent with the public, the Sheriff's Department actually comes in and investigates those for us. And we wouldn't be able to do it without them. I think it's real important for you to know that that's one of the most serious things that an officer faces. And when these people from the Sheriff's Department show up, they are so professional. They are so trusted in our department to be able to do the great job that they do. And even going on with the district attorney, since Tim Ward has been appointed by your board, it's been an absolutely excellent working relationship. And right now, I think everybody knows with the limited dollars we have in public safety, the ability to work closely hand in hand and for folks at our level to get along is very important for the community. It saves tax dollars, and that's going on here in Fresno County, or I'm sorry, Tulare County. Hello, backflash. Sorry, Tulare County. And I've had a rough week, I'm sorry. But I just think it's really important for you folks to know, and I certainly appreciate it, and anything that we can, we definitely give back to the sheriff here. And I just thought you guys would like to know that, and I definitely appreciate the work that they do for us.
Thank you very much, Chief. We'll be sure to pass on the word since our undersheriff had a kindergarten graduation he had to attend, and I don't know where the sheriff's at, but we'll pass it on.
All right, thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you. All right, are there any other public comments this morning? Okay. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Catherine Doe, and I'm from Lemon Cove. Do I need to spell my name? No. And anyway, I just want to let everybody know that the Valley Voice is coming out on the 6th, and to look for it, it should be out in the racks. And we're going to be coming out in June, July, and August, and starting in September, it's going to be twice a month. And almost everybody here is quoted in it. So thank you for getting back to me when I call.
Thank you very much. Are there any other public comments this morning? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on now to close the public comment period and bring it back to the board for item number 2, and that's Board of Supervisors matters. And we will start with Supervisor Cox.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to invite our 2 new interns forward to the podium, and if you would like to have them introduce themselves. I know they've met each of the supervisors, but they introduce themselves also to those department heads of the public that are here.
Good morning. My name is Kyria Fierros. I was born and raised in Visalia, went to El Diamante High School, went to COS, recently graduated with my undergrad last year at California State University, Bakersfield, and I'm currently in my first year of the Master's in Public Administration.
Good morning. My name is Samantha Ferrero. I'm from Visalia, live here currently, graduated from UC San Diego with a bachelor's in international studies, currently living in Visalia, and I'm employed by the Visalia Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These 2 are what I would call the cream that rises to the top. We were able to interview 5 candidates last week out of 13 applicants, and these 2 did very well, and they'll be a great asset to our office. And others in the office have already said, you know what, we'd like to work with them as well. So I would like to warn our board to watch out to make sure they're not poached from the folks down the hall. Also last week, just by way of note, was able to attend a couple events on behalf of the board. Happy Trails fundraiser was last week, was a very well attended event. And each of you know what Happy Trails does, their writing programs they have for those with special needs. I was also able to attend an event in Porterville last Thursday night, which was a kickoff for a program of one of the programs that the Youth Commission recommended funding for this summer, which is a program to teach young people music. So we'll be reaching out to folks that would not have the opportunity to do any kind of music lessons on their own, and they'll be bringing those youth in and teaching them how to play not only stringed instruments but the piano. The faculty for the staff of that is unbelievable. They have probably 8 or 10 young people that are attending universities throughout California, Canada, and back east that are providing the training for the young people. So a very good program. We look forward to having them mentored into that program. That's all I have.
I'm real glad to hear you're not one of the instructors, Supervisor Cox. Supervisor Worthley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, 4 of the board members were up in Sacramento for the CSAC Legislative Conference, and I also was there for a Board of Directors meeting on behalf of the board. A couple of major topics of discussion were realignment issues, one with our criminal realignment. The issue there was the distribution of funds, how it is being distributed. And as all of us know, we were not happy with the distribution formula that was implemented this last go-around, where particularly the counties of the Central Valley, but other rural counties were shortchanged, we believe, in the allocation of funds. And we had hoped when there was another round of dealing with an increase of funding that it might be rectified. Unfortunately, it was not. The same formula was applied to those additional funds. They were quite a bit less than what was anticipated. That might have had something to do with it. But we were assured by the CAO committee, which is handling this matter on behalf of CSAC, that they are aware of the issues, they are sympathetic to our plight, and that there will be another formula forthcoming which will be different from the one we have right now. So we want to be very close to that situation, make sure that our positions are well noted and documented. At issue is, I said it just really does not pass the smell test. When a county like Marin, which is a very wealthy county, was getting $52,000 on a per person basis for the realignment, that is the realigned people that come back to our local jails, and the county of Tulare is getting $12,500, something like that. That just does not fly. So we hopefully will get that matter rectified the next go around, but that's a particular interest to us. The other one was, of course, the realignment on health care, and the governor spoke to us, and he indicated that all he wants right now from us is $300 million from all the different counties, and the justification is that as we move into Affordable Care Act, the state will be taking on more responsibility for what has historically been the county's responsibility of our indigent population. And consequently, we won't need to have the funds because the state will be taking care of our responsibilities. We all know, however, that is the sort of 30,000-foot elevation view, but we know that there will be additional requirements to the county that will not be met under the Affordable Care Act. For instance, the Affordable Care Act does not apply to people who are not here legally. So for the illegal, the population that's here illegally, we still have to provide indigent care for them, and we still need to have dollars to do that. So to take all of the money from the county back to the state is going to leave a lot of responsibilities. It also assumes that people who can apply for the Affordable Care Act and receive that benefit will in fact do so. And we often know that people don't go through that process of signing up for things. So there's a big concern among counties about how much the state wants to take. We're saying let's wait until we actually know the numbers, and then we can deal with that and not take the money out of the counties now. So that's a major issue among all counties. A couple other things I wanted to mention was that we have a groundbreaking coming up for good news on 99, the project where we're going to be going from Goshen south to just south of, or just rather north of Caldwell Avenue. Groundbreaking ceremony will be held in Goshen at the Harley-Davidson dealership. I think that's appropriate. At 11 o'clock on this Friday, and invite the folks to come to that. And there was something else I wanted to mention, but I can't think of it right now, so that's 11 o'clock on Friday. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Ishida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, last Thursday we had a dedication of a bridge we built in Three Rivers, which I never found. But I did find out that North Fork to South Fork turns into a one-lane dirt road, which goes on forever. And Supervisor Worsley found it, so he was there to represent the board. On Friday, I was in Sacramento for a San Joaquin Valley Joint Powers Authority meeting, and that is basically the organization that is formed to look at taking over Amtrak through the San Joaquin Valley. And one of the items that was brought up in business was that Caltrans's plans to put some cars in use on the Amtrak line in the valley that were refurbished, that were built probably in the 60s, and we have some reservations about those cars because they're like step-up cars, and it's very difficult for people with disabilities to use those cars. It appears to us that there was a shortage of railroad cars at one time for passenger railroad, so they took these out of mothball and refurbished them, and no one wanted them after they got refurbished, so it looks like they're pushing them down to our Valley Amtrak line. So that was met with some resistance, but we do not have any authority to not accept those cars until the Joint Powers Authority takes complete control over the San Joaquin Valley route. On Friday, well, I went to CSAP, and on Friday I attended a event at St. Anthony's up in Three Rivers. They have put in a youth center, which is absolutely amazing. the quality of the work they've done and how they've worked with the landscape. The other part, this project has taken about 8 years to actually put a building on to finish the project. We had a lot of red tape that they had to go through that we were able to finally wade ourselves through it. If anyone has a chance to see that facility, I highly recommend it. I'm sure if the government agencies or nonprofits would like to rent the facilities for retreats or whatever, I'm sure that'd be available. Chairman Vanderpool also attended this grand opening, and it was also celebrating the 50th year of St. Anthony's in Three Rivers. So it was a great event and is highly attended. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great, thanks. Supervisor Ennis. You're very welcome.
I also attended the CSAC meeting last week. Something that kind of stuck out in my mind is when you talk about the bullet train and all the money that's going to be spent on that our shortfall in our roads throughout the state of California is about $84 billion. That would be just to maintain and support what we've got now and kind of bring up our standards a little bit. So to me, it looks like we've got our priorities in the wrong place in California. For the few that the bullet train will affect and the many that the $84 billion will affect, I feel like that the roads and water should be a lot more on the top of our agenda instead of a bullet train. Last Friday night, I went to King City and watched my daughter Emily graduate from the 8th grade. It was very fun. Then Saturday night, I went to the 100 years for the Porterville Museum. Porterville Museum has been there 100 years at the old Santa Fe Train Center. They're in downtown Porterville, and that was a nice event. They had a lot of pictures of what used to be and then what's there now. Of course, I could walk down Main Street and tell you about what's there now and what used to be. So terrible. I can remember when it was 9,000 people. This afternoon, I'll be going to Terabella School. It's their year-end little luncheon at 1:30, and I'll be out there. Tomorrow, I'll be going to Fresno to the Foreign Trade Zone meeting at noon in Fresno. And then Saturday night, I'll be attending the Tulare County Beef Boosters dinner at Ritchie Ranch. So that's always a big turnout, usually 500 people there to support the kids that have beef projects that go to Tulare County Fair. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Supervisor Ennis, how many of those photos at the museum were you actually in?
Well, it was quite a few. Because, like I tell people, I was playing football and we were coming back from Hanford and we stopped at Me and Ed's and somebody in there said, they're going to divide this highway from Hanford to Highway 99. Now, that was 50 years ago.
Wow.
Doesn't move very fast, does it?
I agree, Supervisor Sheeta. That is a long time ago. All right, real quick, I just want to go over a few things. I wanted to congratulate the Tulare County Animal Control. They actually entered a float in the Memorial Day Parade in Farmersville and actually took first place in that parade. And I just really, animal control is often overlooked, and I just really wanted to commend Paul Grenzman and his staff for all the work that they're doing. They've actually, in this last year, increased adoption rates by 50% in animal control. And I've got my little chocolate lab, and so animals are near and dear to my heart these days, and it's real good to see such good work being done by our animal control. So I wanted to give them kudos as well. And actually tomorrow at 11 in Tulare, Alpine Vista School, which is Tulare City School District's newest school, and it's actually going to be the first K through 8 school in Tulare, is going to be having their grand opening. They will begin school this fall in August or September, but they're having their grand opening tomorrow, so that'll be very exciting for them. Sure.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I want to remember, I just recall, on my way in this morning, I received a phone call from Rudy Mendoza, who wanted to let me know that Devin Nunes, our local congressman, will be introducing imminently a bill that will provide enhanced criminal penalties for growing marijuana on public lands, and added to that will be if they use, poisons and have guns and different features that will make it have more criminal impact on those who are arrested. So I wanted to pass that on to the folks.
That'll be great, and once that actually gets a bill number assigned, I told Rudy that we would be very willing to take up a resolution in support and convince our counties from throughout the state to do the same thing. Well, those that aren't marijuana friendly, so. All right, that concludes our Board of Supervisors matters. We're going to take up our consent calendar real quick before we get to the timed items. Item number 8 is going to be pulled from the agenda this morning. Are there any other items that board members or members of the public would like to have removed or considered separately?
Mr. Chairman, sorry for the late notice, but I'd like to pull item 14.
Okay. Would you like it off calendar or just separate consideration?
Just separate consideration.
Okay. 14 will be pulled for separate consideration. Anything else? Any members of the public wish to have any items pulled? Okay, seeing none. Okay.
Second.
We have a motion from Supervisor Ennis, and we have a second from Supervisor Cox. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we will take up we're not taking up item 8 that has been pulled from the calendar, but item 14. Mr. Fussell.
Good morning, Brett Fussell, Assistant Director for Public Works of the Resource Management Agency. And Lisa is passing out a colored map of the projects that I'm speaking about. I was before you back on April 2nd and asked that you adopt a resolution declaring that the County of Tulare would be conducting 30% of the force account of overlay work by force account in accordance with Public Contract Code. However, since that time, we've gotten some feedback through the County Engineers Association of California from the California Construction Industry Forced Account Council that they wanted to see a little more detail in that declaration, and that, in their opinion, just a blanket declaration wasn't consistent with the discussions that had gone on between CFAC and SEAC. We subsequently had a conference call with road commissioners throughout California and had decided on that conference call that we would follow the model that was identified and developed by the County of Riverside when they adopted their list of projects to be undertaken by force account, where they actually identified a project, its limits, and the estimated cost of that project. So what I'm before you this morning requesting that you do is that you rescind resolution that was adopted, it's a 2013-0196, adopted on April 2nd, and adopt this resolution this morning, which to it has an Exhibit A, there should be, which identifies the projects that would be conducted, overlay projects that would be conducted by county forces through the use of force account for the 2013-14 fiscal year. And with that, I'd respond to any questions that the board may have.
Supervisor Shida.
In other words, are we doing more roads overlays than we were previously with the adopted resolution? Are we doing more miles?
No, we basically would have done, these would have been the projects that county forces would have done. These are the ones that they identified. It's just that now I'm documenting those by board action that these are the projects that they are going to do, versus just having a blanket declaration and they would have done these projects under that blanket declaration. And this is to provide some consistency throughout the state, what the road commissioners are doing, and to satisfy what CFAC believes was the agreement that came out of AB 720.
Are we still under the 1-inch regulation?
Yes, these are projects that would be an overlay project that would be 1 inch or greater in the overlay. Anything that's less than 1 inch can be done as maintenance and done by county forces and is considered maintenance and is not part of the force account discussion.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I just had one comment. I thought I was left completely out till I looked down by Rich Grove and I see that someone stuck a red pin on there.
Mr. Wong will be before you later this morning to present his annual road maintenance program. And other than Supervisor Cox's district, because it's a large part in the city of Visalia, hopefully we have something for everybody this year.
Thank you. I move approval.
All right, we have a motion from Supervisor Ishida and a second by Supervisor Wardley. Please vote.
Thank you,
Motion
Board.
passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We are now going to move on to our 9:30 timed items. Item number 3 on the agenda is a public hearing, a request from the Resource Management Agency to certify that the mitigated negative declaration for the Road 182 Deep Creek Replacement Bridge Project is complete and adequate.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Ben Ruiz. I'm an engineer with the Resource Management Agency, Public Works Design Division. And this morning, I'm here to present to you our Road 182 Deep Creek Bridge Replacement Project. More specifically, we're here as part of the CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act process, presenting to you our environmental document for this project, which is a mitigated negative declaration prepared by Quadnoff as a consultant to the County of Tulare. This slide just outlines what I'll be talking about today. I'll give you a brief description of our project, what we hope to accomplish as part of our project, some of the environmental impacts resulting from our bridge project, as well as what some of the things that we'll do to mitigate those impacts. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife reviewed our environmental document, and they had several comments, which I'll also discuss today. And then I'll give you an update as to the schedule of this project and when we expect to complete this project. I'll also be able to answer any of your questions, and this being a public hearing, there'll be an opportunity for public comment as well. The project is located along Road 182 as it crosses over Deep Creek, approximately 3 miles east of the city of Visalia. It's approximately 0.2 miles south of Avenue 304, located north of State Route 198. These are just a few pictures of the existing structure. The existing structure is approximately 60 feet long by approximately 20 feet wide, constructed in 1946. It's a reinforced concrete structure. The first picture in the upper left is intended to show that the existing foundations have been exposed over time. When this bridge was originally constructed back in 1946, the distance from the underside of the bridge to the creek bottom was about 16 feet. It's now about 16 feet. So the creek bottom has dropped about 10 feet in the 67 or so years that this bridge has been in existence. The bridge is relatively narrow. It's about 20 feet wide, which will accommodate one 10-foot lane in each direction. It's considered functionally obsolete because it doesn't have any shoulders and the lane widths are narrow. And it's also got a substandard bridge rail. The goals of our project, this is one of our bridge projects that's within our bridge improvement program. Our plan is to replace the existing structure with a new structure to meet current engineering standards. When you use federal funds, one of the requirements is that you have to address all of the deficiencies of the bridge, for example. I talked about some of the deficiencies in the previous slide. One of the ones that I didn't talk about was that the structural capacity of the existing bridge is about half the capacity of a bridge that would be designed to today's standards. It doesn't mean that the bridge is unsafe. It just means that if we were to rehabilitate the existing bridge, we'd have to strengthen it. I discussed how the creek bottom has dropped about 10 feet. What that means for the bridge is that its foundations are losing capacity. So again, to rehabilitate the bridge, it would actually have required us to supplement the existing foundations. So when we took into consideration all the deficiencies and everything that would need to be done to rehabilitate the existing bridge, it became apparent that the best alternative and the best use of public funds would be just to completely replace the existing structure with a new structure meeting today's engineering standards as well as environmental standards. A new structure designed to today's codes is expected to last 75 years. So that was kind of a brief overview of some of the engineering analysis that we did to determine the preferred alternative for this project. The reason we're here today is to hold a public hearing as part of the environmental review process. To satisfy CEQA guidelines, there must be an opportunity for public comment. We circulated our environmental document back in December of 2012 for a period of 30 days ending January 21st of 2013. During that time, we did receive comments from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife on our document, and I'll have a subsequent slide that discusses those comments and our responses. Additional comments may be made at today's public hearing. What our environmental document does is it looked at 17 different categories or resources that may be impacted by our bridge construction project. Of those 17 resources, 11 of those were determined to not be impacted, or the impact to those resources was less than significant. The remaining 6 resources shown on this slide were resources that would be impacted by our project, but the impact could be made less than significant with appropriate mitigations. So in these next few slides, what I'll do is I'll try to summarize some of the potential impacts to the different resources, as well as summarize some of the mitigations. Of course, our environmental document goes into great detail as to the impacts to these resources, as well as to the mitigations that are to be incorporated into our project. The resource that was mostly impacted was biology. There's actually valley elderberry shrubs that are growing right next to the existing bridge. The valley elderberry shrub is habitat for the valley elderberry longhorn beetle, which is a protected species. Our project has also the potential to impact western pond turtle, burrowing owl, and some of these other species shown on this slide. So what this means is that as part of our project, we're supposed to incorporate certain measures, such as installing exclusionary fencing, which is the orange mesh fencing that you'll see at most construction sites that will define the boundaries of construction to protect the areas outside of what's not necessary and to protect those areas. We'll also have to transplant those elderberry shrubs which are directly impacted by our project. Some other things that we do is we conduct pre-construction surveys to verify the presence of any of these species and provide environmental awareness training to construction workers and county personnel that will be on site during construction. The surveys and training is typically provided by a consultant biologist to the county. Because this is a bridge project requiring deep excavations for foundations, there's a potential to impact archaeological and paleontological resources. Again, we plan to mitigate that by conducting construction worker awareness training to inform any construction personnel of what they may encounter. If anything is encountered, qualified archaeologists or paleontologists will be called to the site to evaluate the discoveries. Because there will be some bridge demolition involved, there's the potential to encounter hazardous material. The mitigations that we'll perform is we'll have a hazardous materials survey performed to identify if any of these materials are present, and we'll make the contractor aware of the findings of our survey. Because this is construction over a waterway, there's always the potential to impact water quality during construction. Our environmental document requires that we require the construction contractor to either construct stream diversions or build cofferdams to channel the water through the construction site to ensure that the water doesn't get polluted. We typically include in our special provisions requirements for the contractor to prepare and implement a stormwater pollution prevention program, which will require him to install like silt fences or straw wattles or depending on his construction activities, certain measures to keep the water from getting polluted. Since this is a bridge replacement project, the new bridge will be constructed along the alignment of the existing bridge, which will require the road to be closed. We anticipate construction will take approximately 4 months. So as a mitigation measure, we are to inform county agencies such as the fire department, sheriff's department, of the temporary road closure and detour. The detour is approximately 5 miles for this project. So that was a brief kind of overview and summary of some of the impacts to the environment resulting from our project. We received comments from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife on our environmental document. Their comments were summarized, they basically had 3 comments summarized as follows. They wanted us to increase the pre-construction survey limits and any buffers for raptors and migratory birds from 500 feet to a half a mile. They wanted us to conduct more extensive bat surveys for the presence of bats prior to construction, and they wanted us to provide a more thorough analysis of impact to birds such as cliff swallows, which might utilize the bridge. We concurred with all of their recommendations and had incorporated their recommendations into the final environmental document for this project. This last slide is kind of just an update as to the status of the project. Currently, we're in what is called the preliminary engineering phase, which consists of all the engineering from the early conceptual engineering to final design of the project, and it also includes preparation of this environmental document. We started this project back in November of 2011, and we expect to be complete with final design plans by March of 2014. The right-of-way phase, we expect to start in September of 2013. We don't need any permanent right-of-way for this project, but we will require some temporary construction easements just to provide the contractor enough room to perform his work. We expect to start that in September of 2013 because that's when we expect Caltrans to issue us our NEPA clearance for this project. We do have to comply with the requirements of NEPA since there's federal funds involved. Construction is currently scheduled for fall and winter of 2014. We have approximately $1.3 million budgeted for that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. There's staff available from the planning branch who helped us review the document, as well as from our consultant who prepared the actual document.
Are you going to ask about bats, Supervisor Ennis?
No, but it has to do with-
Go ahead. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Do you have any idea, ballpark figure, what percentage of this project is put towards mitigation?
Percentage of it?
Environmental mitigation for trying to build this bridge? Have you got any idea how much money we're spending on mitigating?
It's a tough one. And since we incorporated into our, contract documents.
I think that it would be nice for the public to know on projects, I'm not putting you guys on the spot, but the general public to know what is entailed in a project and how much is spent on mitigation and environmental impacts. It would be nice for the people to know. I don't think the general public out there even realizes what's spent. If you find something, you got to buy another piece of property over here for mitigation. Got to move the elderberry bushes. You got to do all this stuff. So, I just think that the public needs to know that.
Supervisor Shida?
I think to clarify the point that Supervisor Ennis is talking about, if you go back to the last slide. So approximately 1.3 million is for engineering and construction. What's the overall?
1.3 million is for just construction and any engineering support during construction.
What's the overall budget?
Overall budget, it's about 1.5 million. So the environmental document phase and engineering phase, about 200,000.
So to answer Supervisor Ennis's question, it'd be about $200,000.
Well, that includes all of the engineering that we do to design the bridge. I would say about, 20% of that is 20% of the 200,000 is probably spent on the environmental, securing the permits, preparing the document, so about 40,000. But the hard part is figuring out of that 1.4 million, how much of that is the contractor doing certain things to mitigate for. Some of that's just buried in some of the work that they do, so it's hard to pull that number out.
I think the point that Supervisor Ennis is pointing out, and I share his opinion, is the public needs to know how much it costs to do all this environmental and all the studies and the mitigation to a project that you have to replace a bridge. You have to replace a bridge. 40 years ago, you replaced a bridge and you didn't have this cost. So I think the public deserves to know how much this environmental process really costs the public.
Anyone else want to step on the preaching stool? Go ahead, Supervisor Cox.
How much of this design engineering is being completed by our in-house team?
The design of the bridge and approach roadways is completely being done by our county engineering staff. We do get support. The hydraulics, which is calculating how much water is going to come down the creek to make sure we build our bridge high enough. That's being done by consultants, as well as our geotechnical engineering, which involves going out to the site and boring some holes to determine what type of soil we have. And of course, the environmental document was prepared by an outside consultant.
So if I remember correctly, you said our engineering design costs were about $200,000, and we won't be reimbursed until, or are we going to be reimbursed for that in the 15-16 year?
We're being reimbursed for the engineering for this phase that we're in right now as we go. So we submit invoices to Caltrans, and they pay us for the work that we've done, for the last.
So we don't have to wait until the 15-16 year to be reimbursed for the engineering work that's being done now?
That's correct.
Great, thank you.
Supervisor Wardley?
Phil asked my question. The only other comment I was going to make relative to what my colleagues said over here to my right is that we know there's environmental costs, but I think also then there's those additional costs as we look at what Fish and Game is required. So we're going from 1,000 feet, 500 feet inside the bridge. We're now going to go 1 mile, a half a mile either side of this bridge on an ephemeral stream which runs periodically, replacing an existing bridge. And so part of the issue is going to be not only the mitigation costs, but what additional costs are a result of the requirements Fish and Game is imposing on this particular project. I just think it seems so oftentimes to be overkill. As one who lives about 50 feet from a pair of active nesting pair of red-tailed hawks, I find they can live next to people and activity quite well, and to go this far and take mitigation measures this extreme does seem extreme, and it does cost money. But that's it.
All right. Anything else? Ben, you ready for the public hearing?
Ready.
All right. At this time, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak about any bats or birds or anything on this project? Okay. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and I will bring it back to the board for action.
I'd move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Ennis, a second by Supervisor Ishida. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
By the way, Mr. Supervisor Ishida, I want to say that Ben gave me very good instructions on how to find the bridge that I went to in your district. So it's a great source of information.
Better than I got.
I should have sent out a map.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Next, we'll take up item number 4, which is a public hearing, a request from the Resource Management Agency to continue the public hearing from April 30th to July 2013 for adoption of building permit fee adjustments for general plan maintenance.
Good morning, Board. Roger Hunt, Assistant RMA Director for Administration. And staff is requesting that this public hearing be continued. That would allow us more time to come back to your board with what we feel would be a better recommendation than what we originally submitted to you. As opposed to a flat fee, we are looking at, we did research and saw that there's a variety of fees that other counties are using. And so we would like to present to you, recommend a fee that's more equitable and also more appropriately distributes the cost to those that should be affected by it. And with that, we're asking the public hearing be continued to July 30th.
Okay. Any questions from board members? Is there anyone here that came specifically today to speak to this item? Okay, seeing none, bring it back to the board for action.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
What's that?
He just asked. He just had it.
Yeah, it's that I don't. Council, do I need to open the public hearing or just continue?
Open the public hearing and then continue.
Okay, so I will open the public hearing officially today, and then we will entertain action by the board.
Move to approve. Motion.
We have a motion to continue this public hearing by Supervisor Worthley, a second by Supervisor Ennis. Please vote. Motion passes up. Supervisor Worthley, you can't vote twice. You only get one vote.
Corrected.
You got that touchy button.
Okay.
It's been
All right.
corrected. Been corrected.
It's been corrected. We have a unanimous vote. All right. We will now move on to untimed items. Item number 24 is a request from the County Administrative Office to consider, modify as needed, and approve the response to the Tulare County Grand Jury 2012-2013 final report regarding the report entitling holding cells. Denise.
Good morning, Denise Akins at County Administrative Office. The 2012-13 Grand Jury final report includes a report that requests response from your board. The draft response is included with your agenda item packet. For all reports, respondents must address each finding stating either their agreement or disagreement. The response must also address each recommendation stating if it will be implemented or not. If further analysis is needed, it must be completed within 6 months. I will review the draft response for your consideration, citing the recommendation determinations, and please let me know if you have any questions or modifications to the draft. The report, entitled Holding Cells, included 5 findings and 3 recommendations. The draft response finds partial agreement with 2 findings, and 3 findings are not in the purview of your board. Regarding the recommendations, the first recommendation has been implemented. The second recommendation will not be implemented because it is not warranted, and the third recommendation requires further analysis. It is requested that you approve the draft response and any clerical corrections and authorize the chairman to sign the response letter, and I'm happy to address any questions.
Any questions from board members? Okay, seeing none, board will, or chair will entertain a motion.
Approve response.
We have a motion by Supervisor Cox, a second by Supervisor Ennis. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And before we get on to the next item, my apologies. Gene actually asked me to wait until 10 minutes before 10 o'clock before I introduce Jeff Cardell, who's sitting in for Mr. Rousseau, who's at a conference today. So, Jeff, thank you for sitting in for him.
My pleasure.
There you go, Supervisor. Thanks for reminding me. Next, we're going to move on now to item number 25. It's a request from the Sheriff's Department to approve a personnel resolution to add 8 correctional deputies and 3 sheriff security officers to the position allocation effective July 1.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Captain Greg Wright with the Tulare County Sheriff's Office. I'm here before you this morning to request the Board of Supervisors approve a personnel resolution to add 8 correctional deputies and 3 sheriff security officers to the sheriff's position allocation effective July 1st of this year. This will be for the new Porterville Courthouse, the Tulare County Superior Court System. The Tulare County Superior Court System plans to open the new Porterville Courthouse around October 1st of this year. This will be a 96,000 square foot complex, and it'll replace the original courthouse that was constructed in 1959. As a consequence, the Sheriff's Department will need to add 11 new staff members to assure security in the new courthouse. Today, the department requests your board authorize these positions per the attached personnel resolution. The new judicial complex differs from the present courthouse in a number of aspects that will impact sheriff staffing for the facility. First, the new courthouse will include felony cases in its workload. The present courthouse only hears misdemeanor trials. The Sheriff's Department assigns 1 deputy per trial for misdemeanors. However, the department, because of greater security demands, will need to have 2 deputies present at felony trials. Secondly, the present courthouse has no holding cells for temporary custody of offenders awaiting trials. The new courthouse, because of the greater caseload, will contain holding cells for up to 85 men, women, and juveniles. These holding cells will require handling and monitoring of the offenders by the correctional deputies. The new justice complex will also have a number of private conference rooms where attorneys and defendants can confer. Deputies will have to make periodic checks on these conference rooms in keeping with the department procedure. There are no attorney-client conference areas in the present courthouse. In addition, the present courthouse has just 1 metal detector. The new facility, to handle significantly more attorneys, jury members, witnesses, and other courthouse visitors, will feature 2 metal detectors. This equipment will need to be staffed by sheriff security officers. The Sheriff's Department will use trial court security sub-account funds from the state of California to pay the salaries and benefits of these extra correctional deputies and sheriff security officers. The duties of these positions are covered under the annual security agreement between the Tulare County Superior Court and the Sheriff's Department. The new courthouse is scheduled to open around October of this year. However, the Sheriff's Department needs to recruit, orient, and train these additional staff members prior to that date. Thus, the Sheriff's Department requests that your board authorize the new positions as of July 1st, 2013, per the attached personnel resolution. As far as the fiscal impacts and financing, the annual salary and benefits of the 8 correctional deputies will be approximately $657,696. The 3 security officers, sheriff security officers, will be $160,212. Sheriff's Department will use trial court security sub-account funds from the state of California to pay the salaries and benefits of these extra correctional deputies and the sheriff's security officers, so there will be no net county cost to these new positions. And with that, I'll be happy to answer questions.
Captain, I was on the radio this morning and was asked a question about how long it actually takes for recruitment of these, with all the background checks and everything. How long is the typical process to recruit a deputy or a correctional officer?
Well, it takes, if everything goes good, it takes about 90 days.
Okay.
Now, some of the challenges we face is in our personnel and training staff. Not only do we hire for correctional deputies and deputy sheriffs, but every other support staff that's there, from dispatch to cooks, everything else. And so with a limited number of background investigators, that somewhat hampers that timeline. So what we'll do is kind of prioritize our hiring. Right now, our priority is on this. We just went through a recruitment. So it takes about 3 months to get them through the background process and on to staff. Then it takes about another 6 weeks of a field training orientation or jail training. In the courts, there's a 6-week training process for them before they're functional in the courts.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from board members? Supervisor Cox?
My only concern here, how many vacancies are you holding already in these 2 categories?
In the courts?
Well,
or in correctional and operations?
Correctional and your security.
Well, we're split on detentions and operations. We're probably running about 50-50 right now, including support staff. As of today, I think we're at 96 vacancies. We've been up over. Now that doesn't include the AB 109 because I'm looking at our what costs, our net county costs. If we add in the AB 109, it's a little bit more. It's probably up over 100. So I think we're 94 or 96. That changes from day to day.
The reason for asking that is you really need to add these positions if you already have vacancies, regardless of where they're assigned, because looking at your budget, it doesn't look like you separate much between the operations, patrol, and detentions. I mean, so do you really need these additional positions, or do you have enough vacant where you could just fill them? And just filling them seems to me like it might be enough.
Well, typically, that's kind of a hard one to answer. Certainly, we have enough frozen positions that we could fill the 8 correctional deputies. I'm not sure on the SSO if we have the allocations there. If we have the vacancies on the SSO side, we may need to add those positions.
That's what I was wondering. So it sounded like you have a need to add the positions at least for that. So my only concern was, you're holding a lot of vacancies, and then we're adding on to those positions, and some of those vacancies are difficult to fill already, just because of the process you have to go through, the weeding out process you have to go through to get someone in a uniform.
Well, we've started the recruitment process. We had approximately 400 applicants show up last week at our latest recruiting. So I think our recruitment has come around between correctional deputies and deputy sheriffs, and we're getting a really good pool of applicants now. So I think we'll be able to get them hired on and in time. Of course, the new correctional deputies will go into our detention system, and seasoned correctional deputies will, kind of the cream of the crop, if you will, as a premium assignment, will be moved over into our court systems. And so we'll have
it sounds like you do have a need to add some. That's what I'm looking
Yes.
for, is a need to add the positions when you're already, when you already have a basket full of vacant positions. Why do we add more vacant positions?
Right. Well, it's a tough one to answer, except we hope that through this budget process and next budget process is that we are going, hopefully all those positions are needed. They're voluntarily frozen, but certainly it affects our overall budget. It affects our overtime. Along with those folks that we don't a lot of times talk about that are out on sick, injury, long-term leave with family, which is a significant portion of our workforce. We're just in an injury-prone industry, so we probably average each month. I think this month we have about 40 people who are out for significant periods of time. That fluctuates normally between 40 and 50. So you can add that onto our vacancy list.
So the ultimate plan is to eventually unfreeze those vacancies where you would need more positions.
Well, I would hope with the board's help that someday we'll get there and we'll keep chipping away at that.
Okay, thanks.
Supervisor Shida.
Mr. Chairman, I understand where Supervisor Cox is coming from, but I kind of look at this a little different. And the reason I look at it differently is we have a new courthouse, the staff, and we are designating as a board with this approval that staffing of that courthouse that where the court system clearly understands the delineation of staff of what's needed in the courthouse versus what we're bringing in from our general pool. So I look at it as a positive that we have a separate item on this to substantiate the need, not the need, but for the payment of these additional people.
All right, any further questions? Okay, any comments from the public?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval, and just a comment that I agree with what Mr. Rashid is saying. I mean, the reason we're doing these are separately funded positions funded by the court system, and I look at it as a positive from a county standpoint because in the event of an emergency, we have more bodies that we can call upon, but these costs from day-to-day operations are being borne by the court system and not by the county of Tulare. So.
Second.
And also, I would, as this courthouse moves forward and we get more rooms available, more judges in place, we'll probably have to increase more people too.
It's a motion by Supervisor Worthley, a second by Supervisor Cox. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Captain. Appreciate it. Okay, the next item on our agenda is item 26. That's a presentation given by the Workforce Investment Board on the 2012 Career Connection Youth Program.
Good morning. It's been a while since I've been here, so it's nice to see you all again. My name is Eldana Caudill. I am a program coordinator with the Workforce Investment Board of Tulare County, and I'm here today with my other folks, wherever they went. Oh, there they are. We travel in packs in the youth program to present the final report on the Career Connection Youth Program funded by the County of Tulare and the Board of Supervisors. You might notice that this is Partnering for the Future, and okay, I'm gonna make it go. And our programs are always about partnering. Our program, I think that just skipped too far. How do I go back? Oh well, I missed the partners. How do I go back to that? Oh, well. I will just tell you who they are. We have a number of partners. Obviously, the Board of Supervisors and the County of Tulare. The WIB, the Board of Supervisors are the funders for this program. The Workforce Investment Board, or WIB, administered the program. CSET, C, and Proteus implemented the program and all the direct client services. We had numerous schools that were partners in this project, helping us to identify youth and recruit them. And we also had a lot of leveraged funds from the schools. And then obviously our work sites who provide the training, the supervision, and the mentoring for our young people. Program goals, there we go. We have a number of program goals for this. One is to provide meaningful work assignments for our youth. Another was to increase services for youth in rural communities, to provide work-based learning opportunities, and that translates into paid work experience. To provide work readiness skills training, which involves a lot of things, but it's primarily soft skills training prior to any of the young people going on the actual work site. We wanted to create a potential pipeline of workforce talent or youth into county jobs, at least make them aware of the process and the career opportunities available. We wanted to leverage additional funds. And this was really all about linked learning or pathways work. We wanted this program to connect with pathways or academies or clearly identified career goals in our schools. Some facts. Although it takes a great deal of planning to pull this off, the youth actually worked from August through December on their jobs. We had 63 youth enrolled in the Career Connection program. That was actually more youth than we initially intended, but through the leveraging of funds through our schools and our work sites and other funding available for the program, we were able to increase to 63 youth. The Board of Supervisors provided $100,000 for the program. We worked with 21 different schools throughout the county. Our young people identified 11 different career pathways or career goals, which I will show you in a few minutes. We had 21 work sites. Of those 26, I'm sorry. 5 were county departments, 21 were nonprofits. Those work sites are located primarily in the communities where the young people live, and they're all over the county. Our target population, or if you will, eligibility for the program, were youth 16 through 21, but in fact, most of the young people were 16 through 18. They were primarily in-school youth. They were young people who schools or our referring organizations or our service providers identified as youth with barriers, some type of barrier that had the potential to interrupt or interfere with their future success in schools and work. They had to be residents of Tulare County. They had to have the right to work documents. If they were under the age of 18, and most were, they had to have work permits issued by the school districts. They needed to have, as I said, this was a program to connect with our schools. So they needed to be in a pathway, an academy, or have a clearly identified career goal, because we wanted to link that to our work sites. We wanted to increase services to rural communities. In the Career Connection program, income was not a criteria used, as it is in many other programs. And our youth were recruited from our schools and from waiting lists of youth that had applied to our programs but were not eligible. And oftentimes it's an income eligibility question. Communities served, as you can see, we were able to serve a number of our rural communities. Alpa, Pixley, Early Mart, Strathmore, Farmersville, Cutler Rosie. We also, of course, served Visalia, Porterville, and Tulare. Those numbers showing there are probably a bit misleading because that's where the kids' school was located or where their work site was. They may, in fact, have lived in a rural community, but that's where they were. Here are the pathways that the young people identified for us. And by the way, One of the things that, there are different ways of operating the program. In the Career Connection program, we did not create work sites first and try to put kids into them. We identified the youth, they identified their career goals and pathways, and then we tried to match meaningful work sites with where the kids lived and with their pathway. They're pretty varied. Agricultural science, business, child development. Education usually means teacher. Engineering, health careers, law enforcement, maintenance, performing arts, social services, and technology, basically IT. And I'm going to have some of our upfront folks share this portion with you.
Good morning. My name is Benny Rivera. I'm one of the case managers that helped implement the Career Connections last year. One of the steps that Aldana talked about was the work readiness, which I think is one of the core pieces since these youth are entering the workforce here shortly in the near future. A lot of the youth that participated last year are now seniors and will be graduating probably this week. So they're starting to look for work. One of the key points is the work readiness prior to the work experience. So they are obligated to complete the work readiness workshops, which is a minimum of about 10 hours of classroom time with us. Some of the topics covered are the hiring process. So by the time that they complete the workshop regarding hiring process, they will have completed a master application, a resume, and have a little bit of experience in the interviewing skills. So when they go out to the work sites, they're prepared to go on further and start job searching when the time is appropriate for them. Success in the workplace, obviously we want them showing up on time to work and being safe. The life skills, that's going to help them through their entire future and showing up on time for work and doing the right thing when there is nothing else to do, get busy and find things to do at the work site. Safety, ethics, labor laws, and program policy also covers timesheets and when to turn in their timesheets so that they can get paid and get their checks appropriately on time. The exposure to the Tulare County jobs was a big piece because we want them to come back as future employees here in our county, and that's a big piece, especially with the medical and the ag field and all the areas. Also, we're talking about law enforcement and all. Many of the youth had those goals. At the end of the work readiness, each youth has, like I mentioned, a perfect application, resume, and then they also get certificate that they take home with them, and they can actually use this tool as a resource in their future job search, saying that they did complete all these wonderful workshops that talk about safety, success, and their eagerness to find a job in the future, so they can actually market themselves in the future. Like I said, many of these youth are graduating this week, so they're out there job searching. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Sylvia Manriquez. I'm the Assistant Director of CSET's Youth Development Department. I had the great opportunity of overseeing the Career Connect program for CSET. Our youth in this program worked up to 110 hours in a variety of different positions. Our goal was to ensure they had meaningful work opportunities where they gained real-world knowledge and exposure to their chosen career pathways. This was done with a lot of follow-up and expertise of our case management staff and as well as site supervisors. Some of the sites where we placed them at were Early Mart Family Resource Center, Tulare County Resource Management, Health and Human Service Agency, COS, the Tulare County Board of Supervisors, Boys and Girls Club, Orosi Family Ed Center, and many, many other places. At-risk youth that traditionally would not have qualified through our Workforce Investment Act regulations due to income requirements, as Aldana said, were also able to be provided these life-changing services. Through CSET, we were able to leverage some funds from our Tech Connect program as well as CSET's full range of services to support staffing and training opportunities for youth. Career Connect participants were given an opportunity to explore interested career pathways. We actually have a couple of youth that wanted to come and speak to you guys today and talk about their experience here. One of them, unfortunately, wasn't able to make it today because she is in school, but she did send a little note, so I'd like to read a few excerpts from that, if you don't mind. It says, "Dear Board of Supervisors, because I am interested in becoming a school counselor, CSET through the Career Connect program was able to place me at COS. This program gave me an opportunity to work with students. I was able to work closely with academic counselors and students. I was able to talk to students about classes and encourage them to continue in their education. In addition, I assisted in coordinating events for the Puente students to help them stay motivated and involved. Thanks to this experience in the Career Connect program, I realized that I really love working with students, and it helped me to decide what career I want to do. I now know what steps to take. I need to become a school counselor. I would like to ask you, the Board of Supervisors, to consider funding this program again. It would give the opportunity to many youth to explore their career interests and experience what it's like to work in the career environment. Sincerely, Lucia Jimenez." I also have with me Lynette Madrigal, who was placed in Cutler-Rosie, and she's going to talk a little bit about her experience.
It's really important to explore what you like, especially when you don't have much experience in many things. And Marinela once told me, work in something you love and you'll never have to work in a day in your life. And I took this into great consideration, especially when I found an opportunity to work in technology. I've had an interest in technology, and I was able to incorporate my hobbies and my interest in something in the field that I was able to work in. So I feel that it was a great opportunity for me to be interested in it and explore what I like.
We don't have more use for you here today because, as they said, they're graduating. Some graduated last week and are long gone, which I'm sure I was too. And the others are still in school and preparing to graduate. So we have a policy of never interfering with school activities and so on. So, but they're thinking of you. So, one of the things that the WIB does as part of the oversight and administration is we do site visits to the work sites, where we do conduct interviews with the supervisors and the young people at the site. We're looking, obviously, to make sure that labor laws are being, followed and all that kind of thing. But we were very, very interested in what were some of the job functions that the young people were working in. How did those jobs, what were they learning from that? And how did those jobs relate to their career goals or the pathway? And what we found is that across the board, both supervisors and youth felt very, very supported and very informed by our frontline staff. A few of them are represented here today. They felt that staff was very available to them if they had questions or issues or concerns. The young people said that they definitely were acquiring skills, and they felt that they were getting real world experiences through the program. I might add that all of these positions, almost all of them, this was a first-time job. So, indeed, they were all entry level. You saw that engineering was one of the pathways, but they were not working as engineers. And healthcare was a pathway, but they were not operating, and so on. So, as far as I know. So, anyway, and the young people obviously, clearly, we appreciated the money. They were able to make something around $880 or so for the summer, which is more than I made, but should have been in this program. So the impact of the program, we did have, Tulare County Office of Ed came in and also went to sites and interviewed work site supervisors and kids. They focused a lot on the kids. They wanted to know what they were gaining, and 80% of the youth that were interviewed said that they had improved in at least 2 21st century skills. 21st century skills is a new way of saying those scan skills or those skills that business has always said, this is what we need our employees to have so they can bring value to us. The two areas that young people mentioned really gaining skills in was communication and problem solving. And this was huge. It's always huge. They now had a much better understanding of how to use the skills that they're learning in school or other places in a real world application in the workplace. Because again, most of them this was their first job. The young people felt very supported by the staff in the field, and most of them said that they really felt that their success on the job was directly related to that kind of support. 3/4 of our kids have just graduated or will this week, and another 1/4 of them are still in school. They should be seniors by now. They will be working on their diploma over the next year. Oh, that's it. So, in closing, oh, and by the way, we did not do a long-term follow-up on these kids to see where they had gone. We do know the numbers that have graduated. We know a number of them have been accepted into college and are getting ready to do that. Some of them have gone to work, but plan to go on to college also. And I said a few of them are still in school. In conclusion, thank you. Thank you for the funding. Thank you for the opportunity to serve some additional youth in the county, particularly because we were able to do that without some of the restrictions on eligibility that we had in the past. Thank you for listening to us today. And I would ask that if the board chooses to fund Career Connection for another year, it would be very advantageous if the funding could be available on July 1st instead of at the budget approval at the end of summer. Our kids, many of them, because they were back in school, could only work an hour a day, which restricted some of the work sites they were able to go to. It certainly restricted the time that they had to work. It was a little more difficult for the worksite supervisors to try and train them in an hour. You know, I mean, over the course of months, yes, but still. Funding available on July 1 would allow us to put more of them into summer jobs, which is not to say we wouldn't be funding some of the work experiences in the fall also, but thank you.
Any questions or comments from board members? Supervisor Cox?
Quick, Eldana, how many youth does the program, I see 63 here, so through the WIB, through your other partners, how many youth do they typically employ in a year?
Of the 63...
No. How many overall through other areas of funding, through your typical funding streams, do you get to employ besides the 63?
Yeah, I don't have that number in front of me. I can provide it to you.
You have an about how many?
In a year? Boy, I actually, honestly...
500, 600, 800?
You're talking about a work experience.
Yes.
Not job placement and unsubsidized. Okay, work experience, probably several hundred, would you say, with the reduced funding.
Okay, so several hundred, and they have to follow the income qualification. The point I'm trying to make is when we allocate this $100,000, it comes with less strings than the federal money. The federal money comes with very stringent requirements, and most of them income requirements, which cuts out 50% of the youth who start looking for that job right now. And so we're providing funding for a very small percentage of those folks that don't qualify for the typical services that these folks provide. And I think that's a real shame that more people do, or more young people do not get to participate. And those that do, it's based solely on the income level of the family. And I think that's a problem we have with our overall system, where, you know, we're not looking at individuals anymore. All we're looking at is income, race, where you live. Nothing else matters. So it's unfortunate that we can't add another 0 to this. Mr. Russo's not sitting there. He would have passed out.
Supervisor Cox, we agree completely. One of the most difficult things we have to do in the youth program is say, no, I'm sorry, I'll qualify.
Your parents make $50 too much a month for you to qualify for this program. That's too bad. The other question, I wonder if you could, do we take any referrals from probation, like through our Thunderbolt program? You know, we're looking for at-risk youth. I see your referrals are coming from schools. I wonder if your referrals coming from schools aren't aimed at those ASB kids that might not, you know, qualify income-wise, and that's how they're getting on the list. I think all youth are at risk. Every youth, regardless of where you live, what school you go to, I think you're at risk. So I'm wondering if a partnership could be formed somehow with the probation department through the Thunderbolt program to do a trial basis, you know, 10 youth or so, to see if something like that
We
would
are
work.
happy to form any partnership that will benefit the young people in this community. We did not receive referrals, unless he did, for probation. Yeah, we did not receive referrals from probation for this Career Connection program. We do receive them for WIA and other funded programs, but we did not. We are open.
I'd just encourage contact there, because I think that's an avenue, be another tool in those probation officers' toolbox to maybe direct a handful of kids off into a better path.
Supervisor Worthley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just curious, I noticed that Dinuba was not represented on your chart. Is that because there's not been participation from the high school district? Or?
No. It was about money. And we had focused, again, there are some restrictions, but we had focused more WIA funding to Dinuba kids and in that area.
Gotcha.
So they were being served under another funding source. And
Gotcha. The other comment I was going to make is that I don't mean to take umbrage with the idea of meaningful work experience. My point really is that I think all work is meaningful.
Yes.
I mean, I started off working in the field as a field worker. Last summer I had 3 children that worked in a packing house. One was a college graduate, one was in his 3rd year at Fresno State, and one was a graduating senior from high school. And my own experience is that all work is meaningful. And you find out oftentimes when you work at jobs that you don't really like, those jobs, and you're motivated to go on to get an education, to get a job that you do like. And so I guess one of the things that I would say is that I hope one of the focuses should, in my mind, ought to be these are real jobs, that they are really having to work, that they are busy for the time that they are there until the time that they leave. And that's not focusing on the fact that it's an engineering interest or a medical interest. It might just be taking out the trash. But you know what? That's what people have to do. Somebody has to take out the trash. And so I would hope that part of when we look at that is, how busy are these people, or these kids, when they go to work there? When they get there, are they expected to be work on time, and they start right then, and they work for the time that they're there until they leave? I think that ought to be one of the kind of things that we measure about a job. Because one of the things I always tell my kids is, you know, you are not made, the job is not made for you. The job is there for someone to fill. And too often we have kids who think the other way around. You know, the job should exist for me. That's not the world that we live in. So just a comment. I hope that's one of the things that we are measuring in this job.
we are, in fact, up front, before the kids even get to the site, we work with the supervisors and say, I know these are young people and you're taking them because you want to help, but this is a job, and we want it treated as a job. We want, yes, they're in training, but we want them treated as an employee. We do ask if there are problems that they contact the program and help work it out, but that cell phones go away, no texting, show up on time, ready to work, appropriately dressed. So yes, that is a part of what we work, and part of the talk that Benny gave about work readiness is when we're telling the kids this is what's going to be expected of you. This isn't a give me some place to go and earn some money. So, yes, that's one thing we do focus on.
Great, thank you.
Oh, no, please.
Okay, so part of the job of our case management staff is to work with the supervisors. So like Aldana said at the beginning, we do an intensive orientation with each of the supervisors, letting them know their expectations, what we expect of them, what the participants expect of them, and how can we assist them in making this meaningful. It doesn't mean you're going to put them in a room and let them file all day long, even though that is real work. There are some people that have to do that every single day, but it's really about let's expose them to what this job is about. Let's expose them to what this career pathway is about. So it takes a lot of training from our case managers with the site supervisors to work with them on this, and it takes a lot of time from the site supervisors as well. So we appreciate all the county facilities, all the nonprofit agencies that take time out of their day for this 110 hours to work with this youth, because it does take a lot of their time and commitment in order to make this a meaningful work experience.
Supervisor Shida?
Weren't some of the youth involved in the Summer Lights program?
Not for this program. The Summer Night Lights program, youth were taken from our Workforce Investment Act program, so that was a separate piece.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Ennis?
I just think it's a great program, and I think it gives the kids experience and gives them something to put on their resume. So many kids at this age have nothing. They go in for a job down the road, and the guy says, what experience you got? Nothing. Also exposes them to our different county agencies, and maybe something will catch fire there, and they say, that's what I want to do. So, great program, I think. I'm behind it 100%.
All right. Well, I agree, and I think it's real important to connect youth with different pathways and show them that there's many opportunities out there, and don't feel limited. And especially even in this area, a lot of people say, well, I need to go to a big city to have a lot of different opportunities. Well, that's not necessarily the case. Even in little old Tulare County, there's an awful lot of different career paths and options, and you can be successful and be passionate about what you work doing. So I'm really glad that this program was very effective, and I look forward to seeing results from next year's program.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Supervisor Worthley, a second by Supervisor Ishida. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I also like to apologize. I had to leave in and out. I have a home emergency, so I'm having power surges that burn up my TV and 2 computers, and so.
No problem. You are having power surges, I probably am.
Smart meter.
Yeah.
But are you blaming a smart meter, Supervisor
Smart meter,
Ennis?
probably,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll figure out what meter is responsible. We'll move on now to item number 27. That's a request from the Resource Management Agency to approve the capital asset purchase of a reverse osmosis drinking water system in the amount of $9,730 for the Terabella Road Maintenance Facility, Resource Management Agency Roads Division. Mr. Wong, are you going to be up here for 2 items?
I'm going to have 2 items going, so you have to bear
That's
with
convenient.
me here.
Go for it.
Johnny Wong, Division Manager for Transportation, Public Works, RMA. I am here to, I would like to ask for your consideration to approve a fixed asset request for reverse osmosis systems for our Terabella road yard. A little bit of history of water that we have there. Currently, the water is being provided by a local irrigation district. The water is being chlorinated, and at this time right now, we are on bottled water and bagged ice. As a result of the chlorination that has been done by the local irrigation district, corrosion of the pipes is prevalent that releases the heavy metals into the water, into the drinking water. As a result of the release of the heavy metals, we are over the maximum limit that is allowed for these heavy metals here. The county has invited vendors to take a water sample and provide a solution to the problem that we have. 3 vendors came back with the cost and recommendation to filter the heavy metals using a reverse osmosis system. And we did choose a vendor based on the effectiveness of the system. The system itself is $9,730. On average right now, the county road crew in Terabella uses about $560 a month buying water and bagged ice. If you do the math of the $97.30 divided into the $560, it comes out roughly about 18 months that we can pay for the system off. And as I mentioned, right now we are using bagged ice. Therefore, I ask for your consideration to approve this fixed asset request for $9,730.
Sure, Supervisor Worthley.
Johnny, thank you. I appreciate that cost-benefit analysis, because my first thought was, that's a heck of a lot of money to spend on this system. You know, when you figure you can put them underneath your home sinks for about $150. But
Yes.
Given the quantities of water you're using and so forth and the cost that you're expending, that makes a lot more sense to me. My only other question was, though, the maintenance cost. This is an initial cost, but you're going to have to replace your filters periodically and so forth. Have you looked into that particular cost?
Yes, that's correct. The first year, we don't have to pay for any filters. It comes with the system itself. In the following years, if it's just the minimum, one filter is about $115. If we were to change all 3 filters out, it would be about $280.
Supervisor Ishida?
Johnny, what's the source of the water now?
The source of the water comes from the Frank Kern Canal.
It's distributed through the Tirabella Irrigation District?
That's correct.
So, in essence, we're having this problem on ours.
That could be a possibility, yes.
And probably a lot of the other users on that system are having that problem.
That could be a possibility, yes.
That's something we need to look into.
Well, we possibly can, yeah. We didn't used to drink that water either, because I'll tell you, when you ran a bathtub full of water out there, you got in it pretty quick, because it looked like the Sahara Desert on the bottom if it sat there and settled out. So, no, when you're using canal water, it's not the best sometimes.
The polywogs in the tub.
Yeah.
All right, enough bath stories. This is up for direction from the board.
Well, I would move for approval.
All right, we have a motion from Supervisor Ennis.
Second.
A second by Supervisor Worthley. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. You now have a reverse osmosis system.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Now on to your next presentation. It's item number 28. That's a presentation given by the Resource Management Agency, Public Works Branch on the 2013-2014 Road Maintenance Program. Johnny.
Hey, again, Johnny Wong, Division Manager, Transportation, Public Works, RMA. Those. This presentation is a roads operations overview of the work that the Roads Department will be performing in fiscal year 2013-14. Just a quick overview of who we are. If you take a look at my little arrow, road maintenance is under operations, under transportation, Public Works, RMA. That's where we reside, and we do maintenance of roadways for Tulare County. A quick overview of what we do. Pothole and blade patching, chip seals, shoulder work, asphalt overlays, and other miscellaneous work. Of these 5 categories here, I will be going through each one just a little bit more in depth. The first one is pothole and blade patching. On a typical year, we do about 120 miles of usable roadways that we do patch, and we can make those usable in terms of being driven on. We have 3 pothole patchers, and our main way of doing a better patch is using the blade patching method, as you see on the right with the grader. This year, we're proposing to do 124 miles of chip seal. If you look at my little table here, right here, last year or this year, we did 81 miles. This year, we are proposing to do about 124.14 miles, so quite a difference from last year. Shoulder work, 400 miles worth. We're proposing to do that. So far, we've done 350 miles. I think we've maxed out on that. What I've given you here is considered what they call lane miles and not centerline miles. A lane mile is that if you had 1 mile, you do both sides, so it's really 2 miles worth of work. If you want to do centerline miles, that's about 200 miles worth. Asphalt overlays. Some of the asphalt overlays that the county road crew do is funded by Measure R. Measure R is broken down into farm-to-market roads and roads that are in the communities. Also, we do overlays for grant funds that are awarded to us. And specifically this year, the tribe has given us some money to do some work on roads leading up to the casino. And lastly, we do asphalt overlay by county forests funded by basically the HUDA, or better known as the gas taxes. But before I go a little bit further on explaining to you what we're going to do on asphalt overlays, I want to take this time to talk a little bit about Assembly Bill 720. On January the 1st of 2013, Assembly Bill 720, or better known as AB 720, went into effect that changes the way road maintenance operations are undertaken. AB 720 limits the amount of new construction and reconstruction that may be performed by county forces, or better known as force account work. This limits the amount of work performed by county road crews to about 30% of the total value of all work performed by force account other than maintenance work. New construction and reconstruction is considered the placement of an overlay to a thickness greater than 1 inch. So as a result of AB 720, this is what we can and cannot do. 70% of the asphalt overlays will be contracted out, and the remaining 30% will be performed by county forces under force account, which is what we can do. Starting with
Johnny, real quick before you move on from
Yes.
there, just a quick question. So with that reduction, do you anticipate any employee or human resources actions or not? Are we going to have any reductions? Are we going to be able to keep busy our road crews with the 30% of the work that we're going to be doing?
There's many other, as I mentioned on number 5, there's miscellaneous work that we can do. There's many other things that we can do.
Okay.
Our workforces has shrunk, and we have not filled those, anticipating that this is going to happen.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
on that subject, when it first came up, I think a lot of us were really upset, and I don't think we're the only county, about the restrictions on what we can do our own work. So apparently they haven't changed the statute or the requirements, and I think it's something the county needs to be proactive to go to Sacramento and say, hey, this ties our hands on doing our own work. So.
And it does. I agree with you. As I go through this presentation, I will go over what we can and cannot do, how much we can do versus how much we have to give out, and how much less that we can do at this point. When you think about more bang for the buck, you are getting, I feel, less. On Measure R, as the work that we do under farm to market roads, if you take a look at the white portion, or if you look at the links here, 70% of the work we've given out. Of the 6 locations, we've given out 3 locations, 4.55 miles, 2.42 miles, that we would do with the county. This is what I call a summary of the locations, but this may be a little confusing for you, so I'm going to give you a summary of the summary. So this could be a little easier in terms of supervisor districts. This breaks it down as to what district would get what, but it comes out 4.55 versus 2.42 miles.
I'm not feeling the love, Johnny.
Pardon me?
I'm not feeling the love.
Supervisor Cox will feel even worse later when he sees the,
Well, he
the
hasn't
next
got
one.
anything out in the county.
Yeah. Now this one here is, I understand it's hard to see, but I did put this one up for shopping value. You do have a printout of it for you to see a little bit easier. There are 22 locations that we'll be doing for communities in Measure R. 3.74% of miles will be contracted out versus the county keeping 2.29 miles of road to be done by us. Summary of a summary, here it goes. Supervisor Cox, I don't know what to tell you there, you got nothing. But 3.74 mile, 2.29 miles is what Measure R will do. So in a nutshell, for the entire thing itself, 6.97 miles of farm to market, 6.03 miles. That's 13 miles worth of proposed roads that we do. In the past, now this is the first year that we will be letting this thing out to bid on that 70% of Measure R. And in the past, with the money that is given, we would do about 20 miles worth of roadway. As you can see, the 20 miles isn't quite there. It's more of 13, but that number will be confirmed as we start bidding out. Now, For asphalt overlays that were funded by the Indian Gaming, I do appreciate that. This year, there was some funds that were awarded to the county to do some work on Success Valley Road. So with the money given, it looks to me like we can do about a quarter of a mile's worth of work on Success Valley Road. And it starts on Highway 190, and you just head east until you start running out of money. This year, as I mentioned in a previous presentation, is that the county has embarked on a different approach method of doing road maintenance. And what that does is we've dedicated a year of blade patching and pothole patching. I believe that this year the program has been successful. We've been to many areas and locations within the county for which you can actually see our presence there. With that in mind, I am going to extend that for another year. So another year of dedication to pothole and blade patching. Now, just a quick overview on how that worked. I explained a little bit about it, but if you were to take 1 mile of asphalt material and the labor and spread that out in a couple of miles, 1 mile of overlay road can get you many miles of usable roadway. That's the reason why you see us in more places now. In the past, there was only about 33 miles typically of overlays that we do. So we were in certain places, but the different approach method that we're going to start also for the next fiscal year gives us 235 miles of usable roadways. And I believe you do have a handout there, and you can see all these bluish or turquoise color, however you want to look at it, that we're just everywhere trying to do work, trying to patch those roads that are in need of it. And as you can see here goes some of the work that we have done, blade patching, bigger pothole patching. If it's too much for a pothole patcher, we just bring out a truck and we fill those up also. So typically, 120 miles of usable roadways that we do. Adding on the 235 miles along with the 120, we get a whopping 355 miles of usable roadway that we're doing. It's an increase of last year of 10 miles. So our guys are feeling comfortable with it, and they're working a little bit more efficiently to get a little bit more miles in. So what are the other miscellaneous works that we do? I believe this is the last of those bullets that you saw. We do quite a bit of things, and one of them is we do tree trimming. Snow removal. This year we didn't do as much. It wasn't such a very good winter. As you can see, this is not of this year's or this winter's. And we clear rocks once in a while. Sometimes they fall into the road, and we remove those. And we do bridge maintenance. Cars hit them. Things happen. We also do work on that. And brush clearing. We bought this new flail mower, and you can see the long arm, and it can reach quite a distance, and we're doing a lot of brushing, especially up in the mountain areas. But even though it's much work as we do, this person did find time to pose for me and do a little bit of work for us as we're repairing a washout on the roadway. And this happened in 2011 on Road 88 near the Pixley refuge site. So anyway, that concludes my presentation, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions.
Questions or comments from board members? Supervisor Ennis?
So this means with the overlay that we'll probably be doing more blade patch, right?
Now, in this presentation here, when I mentioned the asphalt overlays, it was focused on Measure R because we are dedicating another year of maintenance for the roadways using blade patching and road patching. Now, the next fiscal year, that will be different. We'll be reverting back to our overlays, and part of that would have to be contracted out.
And then when you contract out, that's prevailing wage, right?
That would be prevailing wage.
That's about half the road that we would have if we did.
It's very high. Plus, there are profits to be made on it too.
Supervisor Worthley?
Well, I think on that note, also, John, you made the comment, I think it's very important for us to chronicle, make a great record of what the consequences of the implementation of these new rules are going to mean for us. How many miles are done, the quality of work that's done, all those kind of things I think are very important for us as we take a message back to Sacramento perhaps about whether or not this is a program that we think ought to be continued or ought to be modified. The other thing I was going to say on the miscellaneous work, Does that include clearing and cleaning the medians and so forth on roads?
Yes, it is.
We have some really, in my neck of the woods, there's some, we'll put a seal type thing in the middle sometimes, but the weeds grow up in the cracks between, and then they get to be 4 feet tall, and it seems like that kind of gets ahead of us sometimes, so.
And it does. I'll be more than happy to take care of that, too.
Okay. Finally, I just want to say, I do appreciate the fact that I know, dealing with engineers, I know it's very hard for them to think in terms of a blade patch, as opposed to reconstruction and overlays, because it is more of a Band-Aid approach. I know there's nothing more difficult for an engineer than a Band-Aid. And I appreciate the fact that your willingness to do this, because I do think, when you look at that, 355 miles represents more than 10% of our roads.
Yes, it does.
And to be able to touch that much of our road system at one time, and this is our second year of doing that, I believe we are making progress. And when you add to that our regional projects, where we're going through and fixing a lot of intersections as they come onto our regional projects, when we look at our bridge program, because again, when we replace a bridge, we not only replace the bridge, but we also improve the appurtenances to and from the bridge. I think we're making progress, and sometimes we sort of lose sight of that big picture, but I think we're moving in the right direction, so thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Shida.
Johnny, do we have a wood chipper?
Yes, we do.
The reason I asked that question, while I was looking for the bridge the other day.
It's my fault for not cleaning that up before you got there, yes.
I had another goal in mind, because I received complaints about the overhang on North Fork, and it looks like some on South Fork. I think that's something we need to look at, is clearing those overhangs over our roads. But we may want to look at maybe even hiring a hedger, because what you showed me on that brush deal is not the same as a hedger, which would hedge right down the side of the road. We use them in the citrus business all the time.
Yeah.
And you can cover a lot of miles in a short period of time, but sometimes you're going to have to chip that wood that comes down.
I'd love to show you how the flail mower works. We did use it to clear South Fork just recently, knowing that there was a problem. Unfortunately, I couldn't do it sooner before you got up there.
You didn't get up there anyway, so it's okay.
Yeah, we did do it. The flail mowers are pretty amazing. I mean, you can put it right to the side and it just shaves off. Once it shaves off and it falls down to the ground, we set it downward and we chip it all, and then we push it right to the side. So nothing is wasted. We don't have to pick anything up. It works fairly well. Works really good.
But on the bigger wood that I've seen.
Pardon me?
On some of the bigger wood on North Fork.
On the North Fork, I will take a look at that.
Supervisor Cox.
I am feeling the love here, because I'm looking at the blade patch here. It looks like 30% of all the county roads in my district are going to be fixed, which is good. I mean, there's a lot of dairies out there. If you look at the west end of my district, there are a lot of dairies out there, a lot of heavy trucks. So I'm glad you are focusing. It looks like you're doing a lot of work around the dairy areas where the roads are really in bad shape. So it looks great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Ennis.
Johnny, I just want to say thanks.
You are so welcome.
Yeah, I see a lot of blue on yours.
Thank you.
and Johnny, I'll finish off the comments by just saying I think that your new strategy is very much appreciated throughout the unincorporated areas in the county. I mean, I have to say this past year has been the best year in terms of road complaints that I've had on the board, because people are seeing you out in the district, they're seeing you doing work, and noticing improvements on the roads that they're driving. So I sure appreciate all your efforts, and please pass on to the district supervisors and your crews that we appreciate their work, and they're doing a good job, and it's being noticed by their constituency as well.
Thank you. I do appreciate your comments, and I will bring it back to the crew.
Great. Thank you very much. And with that concludes our regularly scheduled meeting today. Council, do we have need for closed session?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we do. We have items A through E on your board's closed session agenda. Item B is off agenda. I do not anticipate any announcements.
All right. Thank you very much for attending this week's board meeting, and hope you have a great day and a great week.